Imagine being told that your child may possibly have cancer before they're even born. This happened to us. Let me tell you our story. In January 2013, I found out I was pregnant again, and I already had a son, so I was hoping that I'd be having a daughter. In May, it was confirmed that I was indeed having a girl. As I really wanted to have a VBAC, my doctor ordered that closer to my due date, I have a scan to make sure I wasn't over the 4.1 kilogram limit he imposed, just due to complications that I had with my son's pregnancy. On the 20th of September, I was 37 weeks pregnant. I went to my scan. I went alone. I told my husband to go to work. There was no need for him to come. We were just checking the weight and he wouldn't see much anyway. During the scan, I noticed the radiographer was focusing on one point, and for quite a while. The scan was taking much longer than normal, and she even called her boss in to have a look. He stood there for about a minute or two silent, and then he asked me where my husband was, and I told him he was at work. At this point, he told me that there was a mass on her right adrenal gland. He wasn't sure what it was, but it would require another ultrasound on a better machine. He told me to go see my midwife, and he'd call me within the hour to let me know where to go. On my way to her office, I went to the bathroom. I cried. Something was wrong with my daughter. I didn't know what, and I couldn't do anything about it. I stupidly jumped up on Google. I looked up right adrenal gland mass. It came up with tons of cancer information. I freaked out and I called my husband. I struggled to tell him. I choked the words out as I informed him that our daughter had a mass, but don't jump on Google because I'd already done so and it wasn't nice. He asked me if I wanted him to come up to the hospital, but I told him not to. I thought if it was really as bad as Google said, they would have told me to get him to come up already. After I hung up, I noticed I had a missed call and a voicemail. The radiographer left a message on my phone telling me to go to the Department of Maternal Fetal Medicine at 12 and that I should get my husband to come too. I called him back, but he told me he left the moment he hung up from our first call. I went and saw a midwife who tried to console me during the visit, and I acted as though it didn't affect me. After she did all her measurements, I went downstairs to wait for my husband. I phoned work to inform them what was going on and that I wouldn't be coming in later. They were quite understanding. We went down to the Department of Maternal Fetal Medicine where Professor Walsh performed a scan. He made a preliminary diagnosis based on the information compiled from both the scans. He told me that there was a high possibility that this mass was a neuroblastoma. I had no idea what this was, so I asked him what it was. He explained it to me in great detail, and when he referred to it as a cancer, my heart sank to my stomach. He explained that this would need to be confirmed once she was born and that she would need quite a few scans and urine tests to confirm it, but he was almost certainly positive that it was a neuroblastoma. With all this information, myself and my doctor decided it was best if I have a repeat C-section, and so he booked me in for the 11th of October. I struggled with the thought of all this going round. How was I supposed to tell my mother, my father, my in-laws what was going on? I was quite numb. I didn't know how to feel about being told that my unborn child possibly had cancer. The look on my in-laws' face when I had to tell them was heart-wrenching. And my mum's voice, I could just hear it in her that it was breaking her heart too. We'd only just lost my grandfather earlier that year to cancer. A few days later, I received a call. I was being told that my C-section had been moved to the 3rd of October. My doctor thought it was best if I didn't have as much stress going on. On that day, I went in for my C-section. I forgot about everything that was going on. The moment I saw her, everything went away. I was just so full of love and joy. Everything was perfect. The day after she was born, I was reminded all over again of what was really going on. We were taken down to the ultrasound department where they re-scanned her to get a better look at the mass, along with being told we needed to collect some urine samples. Throughout our stay in hospital, I was constantly reminded of what was going on, with many specialists, medical oncologists and even students coming to have a look and monitor her. And every 2 hours nurses would come to take her blood pressure. It was mentally draining. I was just being constantly reminded of all this negativity and I didn't want that. I just wanted to enjoy my daughter. We spoke to Professor Cohn and Dr. Walker throughout our stay. They're the two oncologists who are now on their case. They organised an initial appointment with them on the 9th of October where he organised a CT scan for my daughter. We then had a follow-up MIBG scan on the 15th of October. With the 2 scans and the urine results, they confirmed the existence of the neuroblastoma on her right adrenal gland. Luckily for her, it's localised. It's just the one mass. We were given the option of surgery or to monitor the mass. as the masses have been known to self-resolve without treatment. After a lengthy discussion with my husband, we decided to just monitor the mass. We didn't want to put her through unnecessary surgery if it could self-resolve. In saying that, we are putting a lot of faith in our system. Professor Cohn and Dr. Walker informed us that if there was any increases to the mass or the levels in the urine, that the surgery would be performed as soon as possible. Making that decision to just monitor it was very hard. You don't know if it's going to resolve or not, if it's going to grow. We don't know. Dealing with all this has taken a very big emotional toll on us both. We haven't told many people, so it's easier for us to bottle up these emotions, which is quite detrimental to our own emotional health. I did find a Facebook group of mothers to share my story to and hear theirs, but majority of the women were located in America and they all had that to bond over. I didn't really find many people to bond with, so it was still very hard to communicate to someone. There are moments that we forget what's going on around us. Sometimes I'll stare into her eyes and it'll all come flooding back. I look at her and I think, how can someone so perfect, so innocent, be going through such a silent battle? It's really not fair, but there's not much that we can do about it. We're doing all that we can now. We hope that one day there is a cure, so not just my daughter, but any other child, or human for that matter, doesn't have to go through this silent battle. Thank you for listening to my story.